Hi, this is 1010 the Navigator, and I am back, but this time I am going to read the 5th edition of the book, The Anunnaki Final Warning to the Earth and Their Return in 2022. Now, the last book that we read, which was the 2022 Anunnaki Code, that was a 4th edition from Maximilian de Lafayette. And this one is based upon the writings, Kiryat, readings, and the book of Ulema, Maximilian de Lafayette. So I'll be going through this, and I do want to point out something in specific, that the last book that we read said that the Anunnaki would return in September of 2022. This book is saying November. Let me find that page in particular. And this one doesn't necessarily have chapters. It has a table of contents. It does have questions, but the questions are shorter. So I'm not necessarily sure if I'll just read until I can't read anymore or how that's going to work. All right. So the day the Anunnaki will return to Earth, according to this 5th edition, is Wednesday, November 30th, 2022. Indications and signs of the Anunnaki's return will appear. And then Thursday, December 1st, 2022 is the date of the return of the Anunnaki. So we could be looking at any time between September and December, according to these two books. Now, it is important that we utilize our critical thinking skills to really see if this is actually going to happen or not. And we'll just have to find out if they're here or not. So I'm going to start reading. Like I said, it's not like chapters. It's like just different topics. So this is part 1. And part 1 encompasses like 133 pages. So maybe this is one of a few books. We'll just have to go on a journey together and find out what's going to happen, right? I didn't want to look too far ahead because that ruins it, for me. I'd rather just read as we go along. So starting on page 43, the return of the Anunnaki. Yeah, and that consists of 133 pages. And the book is 300 and when the reading stops, it stops at 340. 343. Okay, so part 1 is the return of the Anunnaki, final warning, and the apocalypse. Now, this book is much different because there's actually pictures that they utilize, but it's probably most of the pictures that we've all seen before, or you all have seen before. So, the return of the Anunnaki, final warning, and the apocalypse. The Mayan calendar and other return dates. 2012 marks the end of the Mayan calendar. It has no relation whatsoever to the return of the Anunnaki. Any advanced theory pertaining to this date is not backed up by science. Such assumption is pseudoscience. Mr. Barak Eldam was the first writer to suggest that the Anunnaki will return in 2012. Again, this assigned date could not be backed by astronomy or any other science. It is evident that people are confusing the Mayan calendar that ends in 2012 with the Anunnaki return or intention to return. Some authors have suggested that the Mayas and the Incas have some sort of link to the Anunnaki because of their extensive knowledge of astronomy and cosmology. The same thing was said about the Sumerians who mapped the heavens. Yet, there is no date for their return to the earth in the Sumerian texts. According to Mr. Stitchin, the next passage of Nibiru will occur in the year 2085. This means that the Anunnaki will show up in 2085. Any scientific data to substantiate this idea? No. However, Mr. Sitchin must have his own reasons and logic for advancing such a theory. On what foundation did he cement his assumption? We don't know. We respect the man and admire his pioneering work, but we have no clues as to why or how Mr. Stitchin came up with this date. The next question is, how about the 2022 scenario? The only reference made to the date 2022 was found in the Ulema manuscript called the Book of Ramadosh. In essence, the Book of Ramadosh is a cosmological, metaphysical, physiological work based upon science, astronomy, and quantum physics. Yet at the time it was written or compiled, quantum physics theories did not exist. However, the Ulema knew about quantum physics and the anti-gravity laws. That remains an unsolved mystery, unless you are one of their adepts. The Book of Ramadosh and the book Illumu al-Diona described ad infinitum, the return of the Anunnaki to Earth and their plan for humanity. According to two Anunnaki Ulema, masters Ambar Anati and Maximilian de Lafayette, the Anunnaki's return have already been announced to leading figures in several countries. Some have suggested that India was chosen as the landing terminal of the Anunnaki. Numerous ufologists believe that the United States is more likely to be the Anunnaki's return destination. They claim that American military scientists and a group of astrophysicists at NASA and top echelon officials at the NSA have learned about the Anunnaki's return, including the date of their return, from an extraterrestrial race currently living on Earth. Some of these extraterrestrials work at the Dula Space, AUTEC, and other underground facilities in Arizona, Nevada, Puerto Rico, and Mexico. How accurate are these claims? Nobody knows for sure. However, Ulema de Lafayette has stated this could be quite accurate simply because the Greys who live on Earth and are planning on returning to Earth, and since the Greys are working on several joint projects with some very powerful governments, one can assume that they have informed our governments about the Anunnaki's return. In addition, a few years ago in Washington, D.C., an Anunnaki Sinhar by the name of Ambar Anati had two meetings with top officials and leading figures in science and informed them that the return of the Anunnaki is irrevocable because the Greys have contaminated the human race. In their area of speculation and rhetoric, we have three proposed dates so far. 1, according to Zechariah Sitchin, the return of the Anunnaki shall occur sometime in 2085. 2, according to independent researchers and fans of the Mayan calendar, the Anunnaki will return in 2012, and this could change humanity's fate and bring the world to a catastrophic end. Or 3, according to the Ulema, the precise date is 2022. Okay, so the next section. What contact, what return? The return of the Anunnaki triggers enormous global interest and excites the imagination of people. The reasons? Well, the list of reasons is ad infinitum, or endless. According to our readers, the return of the Anunnaki could be A, change their religious belief systems, B, alter the fabric of our societies, C, clean up mind and body contamination, D, establish cosmic order. Highly cultured researchers, debunkers, and believers alike have begun to express an increased and intense interest in this topic because the possibility of contacting extraterrestrials and or being contacted by them has become a possibility that science can no longer refute or deny. The paramount question rotating through the Anunnaki's returns are, the questions rotating around the Anunnaki's return are when, how, where, for what purpose, and who will be contacted on Earth, heads of the government and important people only, or just you and me and the rest of us. Basically, those are the major concerns. However, contact with extraterrestrials is neither the main topic nor the primordial concept per se, because several scientific groups and secret military units are working in sync with various alien races. Many top echelon military men and the creme de la creme of scientists in the United States have already confirmed such cooperation. The main theme is not extraterrestrial contact, but a contact with the Anunnaki. And this difference is extremely important and major on so many levels. Why the Anunnaki contact or Anunnaki return is so different and important on many levels. 1, history shows that there is a special and very unique relationship between the Anunnaki and the human race. Unlike other extraterrestrial races that interact with us for very specified and specific purposes, such as abduction of humans in exchange for alien technology, or peaceful cohabitation, co-occupation of planet Earth via a mutual agreement protocol. The Anunnaki, A, do not interact with us, B, do not abduct humans, C, do not cooperate with United States military scientists. The Anunnaki do not need the consent of humans to carry on their projects and or to coordinate mutual operations. They had and still have full control over us from the dawn of creation of the primitive humans. We function, think, act, and react according to what they have installed in our intellect program, genes, DNA, and mental conduit. They created us genetically. Other extraterrestrial races currently working with top military scientists on Earth have control over Earth and its inhabitants because of their far advanced technology. These alien races operate very differently from the Anunnaki. Their agenda is macabre, for it contains A, human abduction, B, animal mutilation, C, genetic experiments, D, mind control, E, territorial ambitions. The Anunnaki have no interest whatsoever in dominating the earth and controlling our minds. The Anunnaki have already created our mental faculties and programmed us some 65 years ago. Thus, their physical interference in human affairs is not necessary at all. The Anunnaki left Earth thousands of years ago. Many other races are still on Earth carrying out their own programs and projects. For a multitude of reasons, they need planet Earth as a spatial terrestrial base. The Anunnaki, or Igigi, do not need planet Earth as a base for their galactic enterprises. They lived here, created multiple human races, founded cities, established religions, and taught us how to think, how to act, and how to understand our physical world. Their job is done. The Anunnaki are no longer interested in human affairs because the human race has nothing particular or beneficial to offer the Anunnaki. But their extraterrestrial races are in extreme need of using humans. Other extraterrestrial races are in extreme need of using humans in any capacity, role, function, and aspect to carry out their operations. Ufologists and scholars know very well the complete scenario and agenda of alien races currently living on Earth. We have plenty of theories and hypotheses, but nothing is absolutely certain. Almost 99.99% of extraterrestrial activities, sightings, landings, human abductions, visitations, encounters, and contacts occur, develop, and materialize in the sphere existence of various alien races living on Earth, but never in the Anunnaki sphere or parameter. The Anunnaki are not part of this spectrum. In other words, the Anunnaki are out of the picture. They left Earth thousands of years ago and are not very much interested in us. Thus, a return of the Anunnaki to Earth is an exceptional event in the history of mankind, very unique and very significant indeed. The Anunnaki must have serious, paramount, and indispensable reasons for returning to planet Earth. Other alien races are here on Earth. Some left, while many others are still working and living in secret military bases, laboratories on the surface of the Earth, underwater, and in terrestrial orbit. So there is nothing new or special about their presence on Earth, but the return of the Anunnaki to Earth is evidently very special and constitutes a major event. The Anunnaki are not coming back to mine gold. This is an old, silly story we will not bother with. The Anunnaki must have more important and predominant reasons for their return. And this is what makes their anticipated return extremely paramount and significant. This book explores and explains the scope, nature, and reasons for the return of the Anunnaki. Identified cities in India for the return of the Anunnaki. Some writers have suggested that India was chosen as the landing terminal. Those suggestions appeared on many websites and in articles published by journalists from India. The early and very ancient Anunnaki Ulema manuscripts identified the Hind and the Sindh, ancient territories of modern India and Pakistan, and is one of the landing spots for the return of the Anunnaki. The most frequently mentioned cities and regions for the landing of the Anunnaki are 1. Punjab, 2. State of Multan, also called Bayat al-Zahab by the Arabs, and Dar al-Aman by the Mongols. 3. Lamgan, I apologize, Lamghan. 4. The area surrounding the river of Chenab. 5. Kashmir. 6. Jazirat al-Sind. Earth's designated landing areas for the Anunnaki's return to our planet in 2022. Sheikh al-Mutawali and Dr. Farid Tahara, both members of the Hiram Masonic lodges in Lebanon and Egypt, and custodians of the book, Son of the Great Knowledge, Shams al-Mayref al-Kubra, and that some regions of India line up perfectly with the Anunnaki triangle that defines precisely the parameter of their landing and designated cities for their return. This triangle encompasses additional cities outside of India. Dr. Tayahara named those cities and areas. Akitonin, Alaska, Amrit, Antioch, Arizona, Arwad, Baalbek, Basra, BJ, Brasilia, Bucharest, California, Carthage, Cherbourg, Dover, Dushanbe, Gabala, Gienkirchen, Gayurimari, Honolulu, Kamishli, Kent, Konya, Le Havre, London, Malta, Mexico City, Nevada, New Mexico, New York City, Nenderheld, Orland, Paris, Prague, Puerto Rico, St. Petersburg, Sidon, Texas, Trapani, Tyre, Veracruz, Washington, D.C. You will be there when the Anunnaki return to Earth. Let's find out. Will you be there when the Anunnaki return to Earth? What are the chances of meeting an Anunnaki? Here is the formula, so do your math. The following is an excerpt from a dialogue between a student and an Ulema. The student asked the Ulema, well, if I correctly use these numbers, would I be able to learn more about the return of the Anunnaki? Are they a threat to us? Can I meet the Anunnaki? The Ulema replied, first, the Anunnaki are only a threat to the Fasidin, bad people, rotten people in his language. So you have nothing to fear for yourself. Yes, the numbers will tell you a lot about the Anunnaki. He stopped for a few seconds and then said, Tayeb, Eshmach, okay, listen now in his language. When you have some free time, and if you are interested in knowing if you have any chance of seeing with your own eyes the Rauja, or the arrival of the Anunnaki, do this. Consider it as a game now, nothing serious. Just play with these numbers and see what you could find out, okay? So they're asking you to do this if you want to know if you will be there. Write down the number 2022, add your age to 2022, subtract 6, deduct 14 from what you get, add together the 4 digits of the new number you got, add the new number to form one single digit. Add the digit you got to 2022. He continued, the final number you get will tell you if you are going to be one of those lucky persons who will be blessed by the Anunnaki. Remember, blessing is not a religious benediction or a spiritual blessing. No, no, no. It is simply your chance to enter a new age of happiness, tranquility, and an enormous personal satisfaction. Do the numbers, see if you will be around. The student did not quite understand how the final number would tell him about all that, so he asked the learned one, how would I understand what the final number means? The Ulema replied, you will just compare the number to the year 2022. If your number is under 2022, you are not a lucky man. If your number is equal or higher, then you have made it. You will be there. You will meet them and your life will be full of happiness. Anxiously, the student asked his teacher, so if I get less than 2022, I am screwed, right? The Ulema laughed and replied, not totally. Try again, be patient, take your time, and if the same number pops again, do not panic. Add the number, the numerical value of the Phoenician letter Aleph, the first letter of the Phoenician, Aramaic, Hebrew, Anunnaki, and Arabic alphabets. And this concludes pages 43 to 58. And that is part of part 1, the return of the Anunnaki, the final warning, and the apocalypse.